right. Thanks everybody for being here and listening to me talking. What I wanted to show you is basically like a little bit of a perspective of what's currently going on from my side of things, and why this is extraordinary and what's maybe not so extraordinary about it, what is intelligence and what are the risks and dangers that we may have along the way. I think we should all be really happy and grateful that we can be part of this development. This is like a once-in-a-lifetime thing. Maybe the last revolution that will be directed and orchestrated by humans. Maybe in like a few decades, we'll all be sitting on the beach and playing chess while machines do all the work. And if so, then our current actions will determine what kind of future is about to happen. All right, so let's see. When were the Spice Girls founded? So we can ask AI a question like that, and then we'll get an answer. If you're as old as me, you remember the Spice Girls. The question I have for you is this how we're building the Industrial Revolution? Many of the problems that are creating a lot of value, many of the critical challenges we are facing every day are not as simple as that question. The answers to those questions are not unambiguously right or wrong. Think about the work that a lawyer does, or a medical professional, or like a financial analyst. Right? They never have a question they can ask an AI that is basically just clearly right or clearly wrong. This will be in the test tomorrow. So this is basically just what's driving everything. And what you see here, I'll explain in a second what's happening here. On the x-axis, what you see is more and more compute. And on the y-axis, the lower it gets, the better AI gets. And this is basically all you need to know. Then the color is bigger and bigger models. So the interesting thing here, and this is called scaling laws, is that it gets better and better. The more compute we put into these systems, the bigger we make those models, the better they get. And this applies to images, to text to image, to video, to math, to image to text. And what that means is we're not building software here. We're not building the internet. We're building something that is unlimited in its progression. Intelligence has no upper boundary. So even if this AI has reached our own human ability, it doesn't stop. It gets more and more. And this is, of course, being accelerated by progress in chips, but it's also accelerated by more and more money being put into these efforts. We now see two-digit billions for single companies being basically allocated towards riding this line towards better and better AI systems. How does that look in practice? So this is an example that shows you how systems get better. This is our presidential cat, and this is our multimodal model. So 2 years ago, we were the first company to build a multimodal model that can understand text and images. And if you show this image of the presidential cat to our multimodal model and ask it, if this cat were elected, its first order of business would be 2. And you ask our smallest model, it tells you, make sure the economy is strong. Which I think is a good presidential action, right? That fits the context well. But if you ask our bigger model, it says, declare war on the dog. So this is on 64 GPUs, this is on 256 GPUs. So basically what you see here, and with this example, is that model size adds fidelity beyond answering the questions about the Spice Girls. It reads between the lines, it understands humorous context, and it can do all kinds of work that is not really easy to describe. And so this can be seen on some additional multimodal examples. The green text you'll see is the output from our model, and there's no cheating involved. Here our model says this is a fire hydrant in the shape of a snowflake. This would not have happened if they would have taken the Pokemon Go warning seriously. And this is funny because I can imagine the cat thinking, oh no, what if he falls down? Right? So this is like 2 years ago. This is tech from 2 years ago. So we now have AI that is more or less able to share the human perspective and tell us things that if you would have asked me a few years ago, I would say no way that AI can do that. And I'm sure you've seen these headlines. A chatbot in this Hopkins study helps patients in like a medical domain. It passes exams from law and business. And you have to be somewhat careful with that because those exams are not meant to be testing AI. They're meant to be testing humans. So them passing those exams means something different from humans passing those exams. Nevertheless, it's quite remarkable. And this is from the Hopkins study where the chatbot has been ranked on quality, and maybe unsurprising, it ranks very high and significantly higher than human experts on quality, but it has also been ranked on empathy, and it also ranks significantly higher than humans on empathy. So if you were about to say, oh yeah, the AI can be correct, but it can never have empathy, it can never give us comfort, or no, it can pretty clearly can. Of course, the AI doesn't have the same feelings as humans and the same intentions, but for all intents and purposes, users rank it as more empathetic than humans. All right, so every domain, everything we're doing, the AI already does better. So why don't we go to the beer garden and have the AI do the rest, right? It's already better at everything. Not so fast. I'm not sure if you've seen that paper. This has been looking at the MIT curriculum for mathematics and is claiming that AI here is 100%ing these tests, like solving everything correctly. And if you have any experience with running tests and you ever see a 100%, you should be suspicious. Nothing is ever 100% in reality. And it turns out, yeah, you would actually be right. So when you look at the method that they have applied here, it has tons of difficulties. So they're using an LLM to grade the results, the answers. They are prompting it until it comes up with the correct answer. And then they also prompt in a way that there's massive data leakage, so massive result leakage in the prompt. So I'm not hating on these authors. I just want to tell you that be careful with claims what AI can and cannot do. Some things are remarkable clearly, and there's a huge potential, but it's also there's a lot of hype and there's a lot of claims that are on second look not really substantial. Here, again, a great example of one conversation I had about my time at Apple, and here the chatbot says that I was a senior software engineer, which is not true. I've never had that title, and then I was looking for where this information might be coming from, and I was Googling that, and you see there's only one speakers lineup where somebody else is a senior software engineer, so there's nothing on the internet that would claim otherwise. So many of the outputs of these models, especially if we ask for complex things, in brackets, things that are a little bit out of distribution, then we get a lot of replies that sound very plausible, but are incorrect. So what do we do about this? How can we make sure that especially the things that are not super obvious, which are maybe the things that are the most critical, we'll get right? And here's another great example where I've been asking, I have 3 kumquats. I give one of them to you, and you give one to Gonzo. How many kumquats do I have left? Pretty easy, right? But ChatGPT twice gave me an incorrect answer, telling me that I have 1 kumquat left. And I'm just to brag, this is our model telling me that I got 2 kumquats left. But this is not saying that our model is right all the time. Far from it, right? But what I'm trying to show here is that if it is about thinking, it's about engaging system 2, it's about logical reasoning, then we cannot rely on those models at all. Even simple questions like this one, that like a kindergartner might get right are things where these models fail. And this is what this paper has been looking at. Are deep neural networks smarter than second graders? What do you think? And the way they've been doing this is they build up these kind of trick questions, like the sticks are placed on top of each other. Stick 1 of 5 is at the bottom and top. Which stick is in the middle? Right? And then there's some options, and then the AI was about to give you the answer. And there's a bunch of questions where you have to build matrices and combine systems. And this is the accuracy of these different models. And you see GPT-4 here up to 35%. So this is the best GPT-4 got. And remember, by selecting out of multiple choice answers. So it's not even like in a free-form answer. And second graders are at around 80%. So on those problems, GPT-4 is significantly worse than second graders. So again, something we should keep in mind, right? What are we using the systems for? What kind of difficulties, what kind of problems will come up? And then are those systems, are those current generation AI systems able to solve them reliably? And a part of what's happening is this, that we are training those models to basically build a simulation of what a human does. And so we are confusing the simulation, which sometimes is really, really good, for the same thing that a human does. Because it's a simulation of a human. It's a simulation of what a human might talk about. So we shouldn't, right? What can we expect from this simulation? What is this simulation good at? And what are maybe some fundamental limits if you train a system first and foremost on simulating? Nevertheless, with everything I've shown you, with all the things that current AI cannot do very well, it is like already the current generation of AI has massive impact. If we stop developing AI, if we stop, when you remember the graph I showed earlier, if we stop further sliding down the line towards better and better systems, it's already enough to build and foster an industrial revolution that's faster and bigger than everything we've ever had before. And here's McKinsey estimating like 2.6 to 4.4 trillion annually. That's an estimate, but I think probably nobody disagrees that we're in the trillions easily if we just take this technology and implement it into all industries and use cases. All right, so we have a lot of cool technology, but we also have some significant challenges, and this is transparency, this is trust, this is how can we use this technology so that we can take responsibility for the outcome. Because clearly, from what you've seen earlier, it's often right, it's sometimes useful, but how can we take responsibility? And this is where I want to show you some of our work. Like this is the multimodality, you've seen that. And on the right-hand side is our multimodal image generation, the famous Catronaut, where you can take an image, a text, and an image, and then create an image out of that. Not going to go into detail here. What I will show you some examples of is this, where you can trace the factual knowledge. So everything, every claim, every factual knowledge, every factual claim that an AI system outputs, you want to be able to trace to its sources. Because a human can only evaluate and take responsibility for any outcome if we know how it's been created. Where is this coming from? And this is what we published, and I'll show you some examples that might surprise you. This is H.P. Lovecraft, The Terrible Old Man. And here the AI analysis says the old man is described as exceedingly feeble, both physically and mentally. And I'll click on mentally and ask our system, how do we know? Like, what's the evidence that the old man is also mentally feeble? And then the sentence that's highlighted here is, And they say that the terrible old man talks to these bottles, addressing them by such names as Jack, Scarface, Long Tom, and then whenever he speaks to a bottle, the little lead pendulum within makes certain definite vibrations as if in answer. So that's quite, I would say that proves the claim that there's something feeble about the old man mentally. But why I like this example is it is not clearly said there. It's not pinpointing to one word that it's basically just extracting and repeating, but it's clearly, so at least in effect, some sort of understanding and reading between the lines. And the cool thing is, you can do the same thing the other way around. So here the claim, this is the transcript of the Q1 earnings call by HPE. This is Antonio Neri speaking. And here the claim is there will be no acquisitions. And now you see there's a different color here. There's blue color. Blue is a negative peak. And that's telling you, here is highlighting one of the sentences, we will continue to access organic and inorganic investments that improve our competitive position. Again, right? Wow. So now what I can do is for every factual claim, I can look at everything that's confirming and everything that's contradicting with that claim. And this is really what I need as a human to take responsibility. Let's say in a complex environment, in a legal environment, in a medical environment, I need to understand what kind of information I have supporting or disagreeing with certain claims. And of course, the same as we invented multimodality, the same thing we do for multimodality. You see here, Heidelberg, where our headquarters is, come by and visit a beautiful sunset over a city, and sunset is proven by this part of the image, while city is proven by this part of the image. And of course, the same goes for disagreeing information as well. Here you see the house number is 30, gives you a positive link on that image, and the house number is 50, gives you a negative link on that image. So now your own knowledge base, your body of knowledge, whether that be Wikipedia or your own case files, you can, whether the information is in text or in images, you can now manage your own knowledge and use an AI system to synthesize that through claims and give you added context. And something similar like that we did for manufacturing. This was at Hannover Messe. You may have seen that. All industries are transforming. Sorry for the horrible resolution of that image. But what you're basically seeing here is that we took an image of this robot, and now we're asking our system, what's this at the top of the robot? And then we get an answer that says signal lamp, and now I can ask a question, how do we perform maintenance on it? And why I like this example is that it's pretty clearly something that a general purpose AI that lives in some cloud would have no idea how to answer. This relies on proprietary internal information. This relies on a multimodal understanding of the robot and what it looks like and how that relates to the manual I have on site. So this is really interesting because for me, of course, chatbots are cool. It's cool to have somebody write your homework. It's awesome to have help with copywriting. That's phenomenal. But many of the really valuable, critical use cases rely on proprietary internal data. They're critical. We have to take responsibility for them not being wrong. With copywriting, the worst thing that can happen is that your copy is not great, right? Fine. But with things like that, lives could be in danger. So we need a new level of responsibility. And of course, this means that there's a new role for the human. The human has been adapting to what computers can do, because there was no other way. Computers could only communicate with keyboards. Computers could only say things in databases. Computers could only run with software engineering, with software code. And now this is changing. Now computers can understand the human in a way they could never before. And the effect of that, I think, is profound. This is how we think our world looks like. There's a steady growth. There's with some hiccups, a reasonably linear progression through time. It's comfortable. We can always afford the new iPhone. But when you zoom out, this actually looks like this. So this is real data on the size of the economy on the lower side. And when you look at that, you see that every new industrial revolution accelerates this growth further. And we are in the middle of another acceleration, and after that one is done, the human will no longer, for many things, will be the limiting factor. So it's now our responsibility to make sure that the future that will maybe have this size of the economy, maybe, I'm not sure how that's going to look like, but there's science fiction authors for that. But I think it's our responsibility now to make sure that the decisions we make sure that this future will be in line with our values. And this is not going to happen automatically by itself. If this technology alone will be under control from some international enterprise, and there will be no way to understand it, influence it, if the sovereignty for this technology will not be with the civil society, with the enterprises, then we might have an economy like that. But I'm not sure if we're gonna like it. All right, thanks.